Hello, and welcome back to Reach In Talk Show, where I am your host, yours truly, the Dr. Nicole Lynette, and we're talking all things life and wellness. This show is really specified for single moms and parents who are very interested in resources that help you be the best blessed parent that you can be. So I hope you're ready. Get your pen and papers out as well, because we have not just stories, but we have resources for you that will help you be a better parent, a more informed parent, and also to empower your children, because you're empowering your life. We have two phenomenal guests today, and we're going to introduce you to our first guest right now. Today, we are so excited to have this phenomenal woman. Not just phenomenal woman, but she's a phenomenal businesswoman. She's a woman of God. She's a woman that's bossing her own lane, and she is empowering women throughout the nation. And I want you all to welcome none other than Miss Nakia Franklin.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here today to be able to engage with you and your audience.
Yes, ma'am. We are so excited to have you here. You are such a jewel. You are such a value to pretty much everyone you meet, and those that have not yet met you. They don't know what they're missing. So, what you want me to call you? Nakia, Miss Franklin? How you want me to do this? Nakia. Oh, first of all, let's get the name right. Nakia. We can start there. Help me, girl. Help me. You know,
it's important to make sure you engage with someone with their actual name. Because so many times we discredit people and not give them and engage with them respectfully with their birthright.
Yeah.
So
that's
it's
a whole nother
important
show.
That I share. It's Nakia. So
Nakia.
Thank you so much.
Nakia.
Yes.
Nakia. Okay, I got it. Nakia. Thank you for correcting me, because sometimes we actually settle knowing that's not our name,
right,
and we say, okay, well, just whatever.
Absolutely.
But I agree with you. No, your name is too valuable, and you're too valuable of a person for you to just settle for anyone to just call you anything.
Right.
So Nakia.
Yes, ma'am.
I actually like that, the sound of that better anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And it's empowering you because it empowers me.
Okay, awesome. So Nakia, so tell us a little bit of your backdrop. Where are you from? Tell us a little bit of this story.
Well, my name is Nakia Franklin. I am the founder of Brave Manifestations, LLC, where we empower professional women who are single and mothers rediscover themselves and who they are in order to fulfill their purpose as well as their visions, because we forget sometimes when we become parents all of the other stuff, right? Okay. So I am a single parent. I am a professional, and as you know, I am a woman. And it is
all righty then.
So therefore, I have a level of expertise in this arena. Okay. And I'm originally from Texas City, Texas, West Texas City.
Okay.
Right next door to Lamarck. Is two different ones. So I went to Lamarck High School.
Okay.
Graduated high school in 94, graduated college in 97, 3 years later, with my Bachelor of Science in Criminal Justice, Bachelor's of Science in Criminal Justice and Political Science, and then I have an Associate's in Business Management and Administration, a Certificate in Entrepreneurship, and a Master's in Reentry Programs and Services, Criminal Justice Management. So that's a little bit about as far as my educational aspect of things. And I have an amazing son, Kamani Kyrie Henderson.
Okay.
He is 17 years of age. He is currently a student at Hightower High School. He is my ride or die, my rock.
Okay.
In the midst of everything.
Okay.
So that's who I am. I'm currently, like I said, the founder of Brave Manifestations, and then I do have a full-time job, and I also have the company At the Appointed Time Consulting, where I help reentry. So I do reentry services for ex-offenders and their families, and I assist attorneys with parole revocation hearings as needed.
Whew, all I heard was that song. I'm every woman. It's only me. Okay, wow. Wow. So I feel like asking the question, what is it you don't do? Right? You don't have to answer that right now.
Yeah.
But isn't that like us as women?
Yeah.
We are very multifaceted
Absolutely.
and we are very diverse and we
Mm-hmm.
can handle so much.
Yes.
And, thinking about you and Brave Manifestations LLC, but now there's a contrast here because you've worked in the criminal justice industry. Now, how long did you work in that industry?
I have, in totality, I'll say over 25 years of experience in that and counting because I still help.
Right.
Um,
Right.
Outside of my actual job profession that I'm no longer employed with the state
Okay.
doing.
Okay, so you say over 25 years. What, you started when you were 10? Really?
Well, close enough.
Close enough. Okay, we're going to stick with
But
that.
I'm a proud
Okay.
48.
Okay. Hey, don't a proud great 48.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Absolutely.
ma'am. That is amazing. So now that we're talking about, okay, so you're not necessarily transitioned from that industry because in that industry, yes, you serve those, that are part of our Reformation Society,
Yeah.
and also those that are reentry, the reentry part of the
Yes.
industry as well. And with Brave Manifestations, we're going to talk about that in a second, but dealing with that process, what caused you to transition from that industry to now Brave Manifestations?
Well, ultimately, the foundation is still helping people and being
Right.
of service to people, which is my heart, which is my passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the clientele has to want to do better,
Right,
right?
right.
Just like with Brave Manifestations, and Brave is spelled B7AVE, just to be clear. So it's important to for me to stay in perspective that at the end of the day I'm helping anyone who's willing to help themselves,
Right.
because I can't change you, I can't force your hand,
Right.
I can't make you be who you say you want
Right.
to be, right? And I believe that sometimes adults, we get stuck in our lane, we get stuck with in our ways, right?
Right,
So
right.
it's difficult for you to pivot when
Right.
it's necessary.
Right.
And situations and circumstances can present themselves that will cause you to revert back to a decision or way of being that you didn't necessarily want to do, but the conditions presented itself, right?
Okay, so when you say didn't want to do, but the conditions presented themselves, the reason why I'm asking is because I've worked in the departments of corrections, in the criminal justice department, where I actually educated in the prisons. And so when you're talking about the reentry programs, processing them out, and you're talking about parole, right?
Right. I've
Probation.
done corrections. I've been a corrections officer. I did parole.
Parole,
And I worked for
okay.
the Board
Right.
of Pardons and Paroles as a hearing officer. So I've done all sides of
Okay. Okay. So with that, with me, when I'm in the system, I'm in the classrooms, I'm in there with the prisoners, and I'm sharing with them about the cognitive behaviors and things of that nature. And I'm telling them, look, you have a choice in the matter, you know. And then they come out and it's time for parole. And when you begin to ask those questions, then the question is, what do we tell them as they're coming back into society when there are circumstances that are surrounding them? Because you've been on pretty much on every side of it. The recidivism
Right.
that happens in our communities, how do we stop that? How do we minimize that? How do we eliminate? Because I want to talk about that before we go bridge over.
Okay.
What are some of the I guess some of the ideas you may have? How can we minimize recidivism in our society?
Well, first, it has to start with that individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have to have a mindset where they are committed to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
because it can't be about your mom, your dad, your kids, or anyone,
Mm-hmm.
because that can be only temporary at
Mm-hmm.
times. But you have to have a real conversation with yourself and say, okay, I'm tired of going through the cycle. I am
Mm-hmm.
tired of somebody having to tell me when I can use the restroom, when I can get up, when I can eat,
Mm-hmm.
when I can lay back down.
Right.
I'm tired of having confrontations and being around people that are not empowering me and setting
Mm-hmm.
me up for success. But
Mm-hmm.
we're sitting here having the same conversation over and over again about how you committed your crime, how I committed my crime, and how we can get out and do it better. Right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
Right.
if
Right.
you put yourself back in the same environment and you're not willing to step outside of that, then you're not setting yourself up for success. You're setting yourself up for failure. And you have to be willing to have those real hard conversations with not just yourself, but with your family, with your friends, because you
Mm-hmm.
have to put yourself in a space of where you either have a sponsor or a mentor or have someone who is invested in your best outcome in order for you to be successful and succeed. And if you're on parole or some type of supervision, that may or may not be your parole officer, depending on what their focus is and what their intentions are, why they're sitting in that seat on the other side of the desk.
I'm so glad. That was a perfect segue to my question. So, you, with the heart of service that you have and the heart that you actually care about another person's success, you just want them to care more about it.
Absolutely.
Then, what happens when that resource is not made available to, you know, a criminal or ex-offender or things of that nature? Because not the truth is not all people are sitting with the same motive
Absolutely.
that you have.
Absolutely.
So what word of encouragement, it may be someone actually dealing with that situation right now, you know, maybe an ex-offender saying, I don't have those resources available to me. Because before we jump to single moms, I know that the value that you bring and the value that you add with all of your history and experiences and skill sets, I know that there is something maybe you can plug into a young man or a young woman that, hey, if they don't have circumstances that are conducive right now to help them progress and change further for the better, what can they do? Is there a resource or something they can access or a number they can call to basically gain access to those resources, like to reentry and positive reentry?
Well, one of the things I want to start with is, first and foremost, you have to start with prayer. You have to surrender yourself and give it up to God, because we as human beings try to do it all on our own. And if we were able to do it on our own, we wouldn't have a need for God, right?
That's right.
We keep getting caught up and getting put back in our mess and in our stuff and in our junk, right? Because we're constantly trying to do it on our own. And we think we have all the answers, but we don't. My encouraging words is for you to stay in possibility. Create a clean slate, right? Take a canvas, wipe it clean, remove all of your transgressions, all of your regrets, all of your experiences, all of your trauma. And I'm saying this and I know it's not easy, but my request is, and you don't have to do it, but my request is for you to wipe your slate clean. Go literally buy you a canvas and create your life on that canvas the way you now see it, the way you desire to see it. And when you do that, you take small steps and you celebrate each of those small steps towards your level of success, how you define success. Because I can't define success for you. Nobody in the world can. And it's important for you to see it, you to write it down and make it plain. And that's biblically right there. And once you do that, if you're not sure of how to do those things, then you reach out to someone with an agency, such as myself at the appointed time, consulting, in order to support you and guide you. And I put you to work. You can't come to me and have an expectation that I'm going to do it for you, because I did that for years as a parole officer. And then I discovered, you know what, girl, you love your freedom and you love their freedom more than they do.
Right.
So it's time for you to be responsible and be held accountable for whatever you choose. And we sit down and we write out a discovery plan and determine what your identification of success is, and where you choose to go with it. And then we work out a roadmap in order for you to complete those steps, small baby steps. Because everything is not about a leap and a jump. Sometimes you have to be a turtle and take it slow.
Yes.
And
Process.
then you're able to accomplish your goals and what it is that you want to do. And that's why there's agencies such as mine. There's a work source center. There's Work Faith Center here in Houston, Texas as well.
Yes.
And we all provide some type of support, some type of level of services, and they have other things that you need in order to help solidify your foundation so you can move forward.
Thank you so much. That was, yes, the resources, because, and I think the foundation, what you talked about, the spiritual foundation to it. And a lot of times we have a lot of spiritual, people telling us what we need to do spiritually and emotionally, but the actual practicalities are not in place. So how do we walk that out? What does that look like? So I appreciate, you made it plain.
Okay.
So sharing that, and that's what I'm saying. I appreciate that information, because honestly, everybody is not there spiritually, but sometimes it has to be in reverse. We have to provide practicalities.
Right.
So even dealing with your organization and the rest of the organizations that you shared, that's very important information. So I thought I'd just share a little bit there, because we're going to talk about these single mamas, but there's some brothers and some others
absolutely.
that needed some information. So in all of that, so let's talk about Brave Manifestations, LLC. So all of this history that you have, all of these skill sets, all this work you've put in throughout the years, and you have Brave Manifestations, LLC, which Brave is spelled B7, AVE, and she'll share that. Talk to us about Brave. How did Brave come about?
Okay, so as I stated, I'm a professional woman who is single, and I have a 17-year-old son.
Right.
So for the past 17 years, 18, if you consider the moment that you're carrying him in your womb, I've raised him on my own. His father made a decision not to be actively involved because I was not going to be a part of that experience, right? And so he made his decision, and there was an ultimatum given to me at the time it was time for me to take my son home. It was like, we're going to raise him together, or you're going to raise him on your own. And I was like, oh, okay. But God had already showed me, you raise him according to the way that I will have you to raise him. You don't worry about anything else. So I was already secure in knowing that at the end of the day, God had my son already covered, right? And, there are situations and circumstances where you, as a single mom, we do not get a break.
Right.
We do not get a pause.
Right.
We don't get a stop. We don't get anything but a level of consistency. You want to talk about consistency? You deal with a single mom. Because she consistently is required to provide for her kids, to make sure they're clothed, to make sure their teeth is brushed, to make sure their body is bathed, there's a roof over their head, the food on the table, and whatever else they need, medical appointments or anything. There's consistency in that, right?
Right.
And so over the years, I've had to do it on my own. And God put it in me last year. He was like, you have to look at your history. You have to look at your trials, your tribulations, your challenges. You have to look at the joy, the love, the pain of it all. Your test is your testimony. And it's not going to stop just because somebody walks into your life and say, hey, I'm here. No, that doesn't change. There's been so many times that I wanted to sit back and pause and just take a walk or take a break. But the moment I found out that I was expecting my son, it was so important for me to own my responsibilities. So owning my responsibilities mean that I didn't put him off on anybody else. He wasn't raised by anybody else. He wasn't cared for or provided by. It was my responsibility, because what I laid down with, I got up with more. But I don't regret anything, because he's a blessing. And God wanted me to walk forward and utilize my experiences in order to help other women that are like me, that have been through things that I've been through and more.
Okay, so you said something there that I believe strikes a nerve in a lot of not just women, but all together, when we lay down with, and more so with women, because we carry the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we carry the baby, men don't carry the baby, so we bear a lot of the responsibility. And I'm just going to give a shout out for men who actually take responsibility for
Oh,
their
yeah.
children.
I know a lot
I
of
think
them,
they
too.
deserve a round of applause.
Absolutely.
And I know sometimes men say we don't deserve a round of applause because we're doing what we're supposed to do. But it's a lot of men not doing what they're supposed to do. So
Right.
we want to honor you
Right.
for doing what it is you're supposed to do. Because there are men that actually take care of their children.
And I know those too.
But then those who don't, and I think also culturally we have to be careful because there's an expectation. I think about when, I always think about my parents. I never thought I'd be saying, back in the day. Back in the day,
Ooh, that's when you're aging yourself.
when I can remember when a girl would get pregnant and she wasn't married, it was always talking about that girl.
Right.
She needs to take care of her responsibility. And you weren't as young, but you still made a decision, and you said you took on the responsibility.
Absolutely.
But you willingly took on the responsibility. And a lot of times when young women are pregnant or women are pregnant, they take on responsibility by default.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And so there's a difference in taking on responsibility by default and actually owning up, like you said, and willingly taking on the responsibility. And I really commend you for that, because I've counseled with some moms that basically just passively, I have my children, it's by default, I have to take, and it's such a burden mentally,
Right.
rather than saying, you know what, no, I didn't make this baby by myself, but you know what, since this is the circumstances, we're going to make this happen. We're going to do this so that it can be more from a healthier perspective.
Absolutely.
And then an unhealthy one.
Right.
So,
And then there's no resentment in
Right.
raising your child because you're angry, you're upset, or you're disappointed in yourself. And then your actions, behaviors, and words start to reflect off onto those children.
That's
and
right.
then they know. They know. You can't hide it from them.
Right.
And that's why it's important, if you need to seek help or seek assistance, if you need to talk to a counselor or a therapist or a mental health therapist or your family member to get help, to where you feel like you're starting to break apart, you feel like you're so overwhelmed that your tolerance is short, you find yourself yelling or snapping at your children. It's not their fault.
Right.
They're innocent in the experience, right? And you have to step back and reflect, look in the mirror and say, hey, what are we doing? Is it them or is it me? Am I reacting? Am I loving them? Or am I angry? Am I projecting with them? And then you have to step back and identify that. And then that can make the difference in how you go forward in anything. And then you reach out to someone and ask for help. And there's numerous agencies that are available to do that.
Look at here, Nakia.
Yes, ma'am.
So many of us as women, single moms, have never been instructed to look at ourselves in the mirror. Because we always look at ourselves in the mirror, and it's usually from a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And to reach out to help someone, to get help? What do you mean? We don't need help. We've been stuck here. We need help. But it shows every day.
Right.
But the narrative that we've been taught and what we believe, and not so much, even if it wasn't verbally imparted to us, just by the examples that we've seen. It's not, you don't need help, especially in our culture.
Right.
You don't need help, and then the help that you need is usually telling them to go to get some assistance from the government.
Right.
Rather than, work on a job. But that's another show. We don't have time to expound on that one. Because that's a show within itself, right?
Absolutely.
So to actually provide, to go out and actually realize there are resource tools available. And that's why when we're talking about brave manifestations, you had experience for yourself. Yeah. So you're an expert in this,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
And so my question is, for the sake of time, what are some of the services you offer from Brave Manifestations, and what age group do you have a target
I
age
do.
group?
Absolutely.
What services do you all provide?
Okay. So, Brave Manifestations, first, Brave stands for boundless, redeemed, anointed, victorious, and empowered.
Wow.
Those are our core values. So we aim to empower you as a professional woman, as a single mother, and let you know, help you to understand and identify for yourself that you are boundless, fully capable of doing anything that you put your mind to. Mm-hmm. You have to have support. You have to have guidance sometimes. And it's nothing wrong with that, right? And just like the blank canvas, we go through a process with Brave Manifestations. We talk about being balanced. We focus on being balanced, what that looks like for you, what matters to you, and how can we assist you in achieving those particular goals. We speak of being redeemed. We talk about the biblical aspect of what it means to be forgiven and to be able to forgive others, because if we don't start there, then we won't be able to move beyond that. We speak of being anointed because God has anointed every woman to be able to carry a child. And even if you couldn't give birth to that child from your womb, you are a representative of God and the ability to nurture, nature, prepare, and move forward and advance children in this world so they can be better for themselves and better for us. So you have victorious. We are victorious in all that we do, women. Moms, we are victorious because each and every day that you wake up, you put your feet on that ground, you have breath in your body, you are victorious because God prepared you and allowed you to have another moment. And you have to be able to see your victoriousness. You have to be able to see how you're victorious. And we walk you through a process on that as well. And empowerment, right? It is so important for you to be empowered because we're constantly giving. We're always being pulled from, taken from. And we're reaching out and extending our hand, like you say, we want to, everybody identifies as super women, right? But we're not. We're human beings too, just like you. And it is so important that we empower you. So therefore, when you're going out into the world, you know how to empower yourself as well as empower others. Because if you don't feed yourself, if you don't make sure that you have your self-care, your mental health, your self-love, right? That in part. Place and in order, then what good are you, not just to yourself, but to your children? You got to start in your house, then move beyond your house before you can help the world. So that's what we do, and that's the core values and the programs we utilize in order to help empower women.
That is absolutely phenomenal. So what is your age group?
Age group starts from 24 to 48. I had my son when I was 31. I was pregnant at 30, and I want to help those young women who are in school, may have their children already. They're in college. Let me be clear. They're in college, or they may feel like they're going to drop out, or they can't do it. They don't want to go back because it's going to be too hard. I got my undergrad, my bachelor's before I had my son, right? And then since I've had my son, I went back and got my associates. I had a scholarship from the Women's Business Center in Houston. Got my associates and my certificate of entrepreneurship. Then I got my master's after that, so I kind of went out of order. But I got it.
You got it done.
I got it done. And being a mom, my son was young at that time. Graduated with my master's in 2014. He was born in 2005. So you can do it.
Yes.
I look at the middle group, right? The middle group is focused on, because at that point I had him at 31. So it was important for me because I've gone through the experience from birth, from conception to birth at 31 years of age, all the way up to now 48. And so I really understand the challenges and the experiences that we go through, the need for a break, the need for support, the need to be able to really reach out and do the things that I want to do in life, right? To empower myself, to empower others. And he's now at the age where he is so supportive and he gets it and he understands, right? And he's been like that for a long time, but now I'm okay with stepping out and being me, the whole me, my total and complete me. And knowing that I've done what I needed to do up until this point in order to empower him and support him in becoming the man, the best man that God created him to be.
Wow.
Which goes back to raise him according to the way that I will have you to raise him, and I will cover the rest when I walk the labyrinth when I was expecting him.
And, you know, that's just to be commended. Applause to you, hats off to you. First of all, it also started with you accepting responsibility.
Yes.
And I think that is what's missing in our communities, in our society, no matter what the circumstances are. What part do we play? What role do we play in how we accept responsibility? I hate to cut this short because it's so empowering and so amazing, but we have to shut down this part of the show.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicole.
Yes.
You are a phenomenal woman yourself.
Oh,
and
you.
It's women like you who put people like me on a platform that have the ability to engage with people that see me and see themselves in me, right? In themselves. See me as them, right? So without your platform and without you utilizing it to do what you do, this couldn't happen.
Wow. Well, you know what? That just proves we need each other, because in order for us to grow and help others grow, we're going to have to grow this platform some more.
Absolutely.
You all, thank you, Nakia, for joining us. Y'all, this is Nakia Franklin. If you want to contact her, visit our website. Her information will be posted there. And until next time, we have our next guest coming, but we'll be right back. To the Reach In Talk Show, where I am yours truly, the host, Dr. Nicole Lynette, where we're talking all things life and wellness. And woo, I know y'all enjoyed that first guest, but we have another amazing guest. He is my brother from another mother, and he's a mover and shaker, and he's doing some great things. Everyone put your hands together and let's welcome our guest, Mr. Jonathan Russell. Hey, bro.
How you all doing today? It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here, brother. Yes. So, I'm going to call him Joe. Y'all, his name is Jonathan Russell, but he's also known by Joe Nathan. He'll tell you a little bit about that, because there are so many facets to this brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. There's a lot of things that I have done in life, especially when it comes to the name. A lot of people know me by Joe Nathan in the neighborhood I grew up in. A lot of people that I went to school with. But, there's a lot of things about myself that I know how to do, and a lot of things that I've been a part of. And so it sort of makes me in the kind of man that I am.
Okay, so you just gonna keep from us the community you grew up in. You're not gonna represent that today, right?
Well, yeah.
You're not gonna talk about your community and your school. You're not trying to represent today, bro.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in actually two communities.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Fifth Ward, I grew up in Fifth Ward, and I also grew up in Pleasantville, which is on the east side of Houston. Born and raised there, and also in Fifth Ward, Houston's Fifth Ward.
Okay.
Went to Wheatley High School, graduated from Wheatley High School, and I started over at Fur High School, but because of the type of the mentality that I had, the temperament I had, ended up having to transfer over to Wheatley High School. You can kind of get that.
That sounds very nicely put. I had to transfer over. That sounds like another show.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to talk about this, because you say you're from Fifth Ward and Pleasantville.
Right.
Now, I had a conversation with someone the other day. As a matter of fact, when because I grew up on, the other side, Third Ward, right? And so when I started getting accustomed to Fifth Ward, I made a mistake. And I was in Cashmere Garden, and I was calling it Fifth Ward, and I felt like they were about to lynch me. And then you don't call Pleasantville Fifth Ward, and you don't call Fifth Ward Cashmere Garden,
Right.
and then you don't call Cashmere Garden, what is it, Trinity?
Trinity Garden.
Trinity Gardens.
Yes.
When I look on the city map, it all say Fifth Ward. So, but I won't say. Well, I just said it out loud now. Understand? I'm not trying to disrespect anybody. What is it with that? What?
You know, I'm really not sure. You probably would have to ask some of the baby boomers about that.
Oh, he's represent that he's an Xer.
Yeah,
He
yes.
is not a boomer.
Yes, you would probably have to get that information, and you know that's a historical context that you have to deal with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, you have fairly large families that come out of all of the communities,
Right.
whether it's Fifth Ward or
Right.
usually most of the families started actually in Fifth Ward,
Mm-hmm.
and then they branched out and moved to Pleasantville or Trinity Garden or Cashmere Garden and surrounding areas, Clinton Park, and all of that.
Okay.
But most of my family started in Fifth Ward off of Liberty Road and Gregg Street.
Okay.
As my oldest brothers and sisters who are now in their 70s right now.
Okay.
And
Wait a
so-
minute. You have older brothers and sisters in their 70s.
Yes.
And so where do you fit in how
Well-
many siblings you have?
Well, it's 9 of us.
Okay.
And I'm the 8th child. I'm the baby boy.
Wow.
And
okay.
there's a baby girl, and I'm the baby boy. So, it was quite a bit of us. My mom and father had started their family there. Well, the mom and father actually originated. They started from Great Bridge, South Lake, Texas, and my mom was from Louisiana.
Okay.
And so they pretty much moved here in this area after getting married to Pleasantville,
Okay.
Fifth Ward, and then Pleasantville, and then
Okay.
pretty much our roots are pretty much right there in Fifth Ward.
Okay, Fifth Ward.
Yeah.
And speaking of roots, wow. Okay, so you attended Wheatley.
Yes.
You graduated from Wheatley
In 1986.
in 1986.
Yes.
I'm not going to do the math for that. Okay.
Now that's a story behind that also, but yes, in 1986.
For the sake of time.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead and tell
Yeah.
us the story. The short version, though. The short version.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, been transferred from Fur High School to Wheatley High School. I was one of those kids that stayed in trouble a lot. Okay?
Not you.
Yeah,
Not the
that's
baby
me.
boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I was fairly spoiled, but
He
but
said that like he had pride with that. Yes, I was fairly spoiled.
Yeah, I was,
You would know that?
Yes.
Okay.
And transferring to Wheatley High School at that time, it was a school that was struggling, as it is now, and
Yes. Wow.
struggling at the time. And basically, I was a very intelligent, child at the time, student at the time, but it was just I had my own challenges as any young person would.
Okay.
During that time. And so I decided to drop out my 11th grade year. I
Okay.
dropped out my 11th grade year, but shortly I went back and graduated. I ended up getting my diploma and graduating and all of that. And had short time. It was short lived, and then I ended up going to Texas Southern for a certain amount of time. That was like further down in life after I had children and all of that. And but it was a time for me that I couldn't understand a lot about who I was as a young man growing up, and which was some of the things that a lot of our young people deal with today. So I
Right.
can pretty much understand the challenges that they have, and the decisions that they make around that age.
So, what caused you to drop out in the 11th grade?
Well, during that time, in my household, my father worked a lot, and my mom was at home. My oldest brothers and sisters had their own personal lives and
Right.
things like that. So I was pretty much a loner. And most of the time, I was off to myself doing what I wanted to do. My mom, she did the best that she could. We were in and out of church and revivals and all the 9 yards of what a parent could do. But the thing is that I had so much time to myself
Okay.
until it caused me to somewhat developed that herd instinct of following the group
Wow.
that was in the community. And so that was one of the reasons why I decided to make that decision. The other thing is that while being in school, for some reason, I didn't feel like the teachers could relate at the time.
So wait a minute. You said you didn't feel like they could relate.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, I didn't feel as if though they understood how I was feeling as a young man at the time, and I felt like they didn't have the answers to why I was the type of person I was at that time. You know, I had, like I said, my temperament was pretty bad at the time, and at that time we had what you call corporal punishment,
Right.
where everything that basically you got in trouble for, when you were sent to the principal's office, you got paddled.
I remember those.
And so, being the fact that that was just something that I did not like at all. It was like you getting paddled there, and then you get corporal punishment in the school, and then when you get home, you get corporal punishment when you get home. And so, therefore, I didn't like the idea of having to, being punished at school and then being punished again at home.
Right.
And so I made that decision to say, well, you know what? If it's that bad, then I might as well just completely end that process of just going to school altogether.
Wow.
And so,
wow.
but I realized later how important my education was to me then, because, as a young person, when you make a conscious decision like that, you have to look for a job to take care of yourself, or you either have to enlist into the military or something, something or another. I didn't go to a trade school, but I had to make a decision whether if I wanted to go to a trade school or not. But you have to make some conscious decision of what you need to do in life, and so it sort of caught up with me, and as a result of that, I had to I had to do things different. I had to do something different in order to kind of salvage myself at the time.
Okay.
Even with both parents being at home. And I know that sometimes, some people say, well, it's, when you come out of a single parent home, these are the things that you look for. These are the tragedies that can happen. These are all of that.
Yes.
But even when you've been in a home of both parents, you still can experience some of the tragedies and the misfortunes of being a wayward child, so to speak.
Right.
And so I don't want our viewers to think that just because a person comes out of a home, whether it's two parents, that you're going to have a balanced child and you're going to have a successful child, and that's not always the case.
I'm so glad that you communicated that fact, and being a man communicating that fact, and being a black man communicating that fact, because I've talked with people and I have these conversations, and they just, oh my God, the wayward children of the world, they must have come from a single parent home. And that's unfair to the single parents that's raising the children. Single parents raise productive children, and some of those children don't even get off track.
That's true.
That
is true.
But they say, well, no, if they, it'd be better if they have both parents at home. That's true too. But at the end of the day, you can invest in your child and invest in your child, but at the end of the day, the child has to make a decision about what they're going to do with the investment.
That's true.
So you decided to eliminate one of the variables that was holding you accountable to your decision making.
That's true.
But also, I think something that is very valuable that you stated, and I think in our society we've kind of started re-looking, re-evaluating, is, now I still believe in corporal punishment, okay? But I think it has its place. And I come from that era. The answer was corporal punishment.
Right.
But that wasn't the answer. And what I noticed in what you stated was nobody talked to you. Everybody just wanted to pop you or, put you in your place. Because it's all kind of terms for it. Right. Whippings, spankings,
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
all of that, and
Right.
we felt like the physicality is what's gonna help you straighten up.
Right.
Rather than, but you said something that's so valuable, and I know our children is dealing with it today. You didn't think that the teachers or the instructors had an answer for why you were so angry and why
Mm.
you were, dealing with life the way you were dealing with
Right.
it.
Right.
And part of that comes from because unfortunately, with, I have an organization and we're talking about being a trusted adult. A lot of times adults didn't talk to children because they didn't think children were valuable enough, or they had to respect children enough to even ask
Right.
them questions about what's going on with you, because they felt like as long as you had, and I know my audience can help me finish this, as long as you had food on the table, clothes on your
Exactly.
back,
Right.
a place to
Right.
live,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you were being provided for. You had no issues. You had no challenges. You're a child. What problems could you possibly have?
Mm.
And I just think that just you making that statement is so impactful and it's just so empowering, because as a young man, in the era where you are now, at the age you are now, being a mature, seasoned man, to say this, and this is still happening today.
That it is.
Our kids are committing suicide,
It's true.
as young as elementary school level, because adults won't talk with our children.
Mm-hmm.
And our previous guest, she's a single mom, but she has a successful story
Right.
for raising her, which is powerful too. Her son.
Exactly.
So, with you having two parents and they did what they could with the resources that they had, with the tools and the skills that they had.
Right.
You dropped out of school. You was an angry child.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to go into have you ever come to the point of realizing what the source of your anger was?
Oh, absolutely. Let me say this first of all, is that the level of parenting during that time when it came to my parents, and I don't want any of the viewers to think that my parents didn't love me or anything like that, because they did. They were hardworking parents.
Mm-hmm.
They made sure that we had the roof over our head,
Right,
clothes
right,
on our
right,
back,
right.
and all of that. And they were parents that really held to a lot of values
Right.
to make sure that we were working class citizens,
Right.
law-abiding citizens,
Right.
all of that.
Right.
So I don't want the negativity to be thought of, because you have parents that they're involved in that type of life to where they're doing things that are just completely out of character, and
Right.
it causes children to do
Right.
things out of character as well.
Right, right.
But that wasn't my case.
Right.
And like I said, my case is that I didn't feel as if though the teachers could relate to the type of child I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say that the type of child that I was at the time, I was very energetic. You put classwork in front of me, I did it like it was nothing. It was no problem.
Right.
They couldn't give me enough work.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time my mom was called to the office, and she took me to the office, and I remember sitting down with the principal and the teacher, and the teacher made one statement that I remember today, is that he said, "Well, Miss Russell, it's not that he can't do the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that we can't give him enough work, because everything we put in front of him, he has no problem with it."
Right.
So I really had no challenges academic wise
Yes.
in the class.
Yes.
It became a behavior thing because of what I was experiencing in my own neighborhood, my own community.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes, children can be caught in the crossfire in their own community, as in terms of learned behavior, so to speak.
Right.
And
right.
so it doesn't mean that what they were doing was wrong, because they did everything right as far as I was concerned.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so, but the turning point for me, it was when I got married and I started to, I had to raise children,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the experience of going through the school districts
Yes.
and having to actually see what all it was about in raising a child. My firstborn, it was tough. And I tell you, I went through a period to where I had to deal with him when it came to the education. I had to deal with him when it came to the penal system, and it was rough. But that turning point took place for me when I saw that, hey, you're gonna have to raise him different. And it was tough for me as a father, as a young father, because I was somewhere around the age of 23 when that happened. And so when you get married earlier, and then you're raising a child at a younger age, you know, you're trying to put all of these variables together. You're trying to put all these puzzles together to make sure that he doesn't make the same mistake that you made.
Right.
And so, as a father, it took a minute for me to kind of put those pieces together.
So the pivotal point, because and please forgive me, because you are the CEO and founder of Ambassador Inc.
Right.
And that's why I want you to come, because I believe it has everything to do when you talk about that pivotal point.
It does.
When you say, at this point, I realize I'm going to have to raise him different. I'm going to have to school him different.
Absolutely.
I'm going to have to do something different
Right.
if I want a different result.
Exactly.
So as the CEO and founder of Ambassador Inc., talk about Ambassador Inc.
Oh, wait. Well, Ambassador Inc. started with me actually starting to add as an assistant chaplain at the Harris County Sheriff Department, which was around that age. I was about 23 years old. Now, I seen young men coming in and out of the Harris County Jail for years, and I kind of knew that it was something that I had to do. Well, prior to that, I've had previous experience, whether it's as assistant chaplain or as a youth mentor and a youth pastor, and I seen the fight, the struggle, and the war that young people had. So I had to come up with an idea, but I just didn't know what.
Right.
But it wasn't until later in my life, around age, I say 40, that I come up with an idea of putting youth initiatives together for young people, because I realized that if you didn't have anything in the neighborhood for young people to gravitate towards, then they will gravitate towards gang violence or gun violence or things of that nature, or early pregnancy, of all of that. So we had things in the neighborhood, but somehow they just sort of like dwindled. It just kind of just went off the air, so to speak. And but Ambassador Inc. has a lot to do with forming and putting together all of these youth initiatives for young people who are in the inner city in our areas.
So, forming. So that has to do with. I forgot the term. Lord Jesus just left me. But forming, we'll just stick with forming. And I've seen your gardens that you've had out in the community and all of that, right in the middle of, it's Fifth Ward, right?
Right.
Okay, I want to say the right location.
Right in the middle of Fifth Ward.
Lord Jesus. But right in the middle of Fifth Ward, I've seen the forms.
Right.
And the forms and the vegetations, and showing the pictures of the children, are actually setting up the irrigation systems and all of that.
Right.
And that's right in Fifth Ward. And that was before, here lately, there's this big thing about having these community gardens.
Right.
You all had already started
Yes.
some community gardens right there in Fifth Ward.
Right.
And some of your youth initiatives, I know you've provided. Let's talk about the vocational side.
Okay.
I want to talk about that.
So, Ambassador Incorporated has at least 5 youth initiatives that we've created for the youth in that area. One is the academic youth initiative. It's called Gemini Learning Center.
Yes.
In Gemini Learning Center, we pretty much focus on the academic side. We focus on math, science, of reading, kids who are struggling in those areas. And so we try to basically give the children what they're struggling with in the school during the school year.
Right.
We try to give that to them during the summer.
Right.
And the other thing is that we have a Man of Skill. Now, Man of Skill is very unique in such a way to where it brings back the skills and the trades that we once had in our junior high and high school. Because if you can remember, there was a time when we had a lot of those skills and trades,
Yes.
but technology, when they brought into the computers in it, that sort of like took away a lot of those trades, which pretty much left us out there. So we have man of skill, and man of skill, they'll learn anything from auto mechanics to mechanical engineering to carpentry to gardening. And all of those things that kids learn to work with their hands and build the skills to work with their hands. And so by the time they graduate, they'll also have a skill.
Right.
They can be athletic,
Right.
but if they have no skills, then they're doing no job, because you have a lot of guys that graduate from high school and go to college and they go to the pros, and if they get hurt, and they don't have
Right.
anything to fall back on.
Right.
So we want to make sure that they at least have a skill.
Right.
And then the other thing is that we just other youth initiative that I just plugged in, and that is the music. As far as we have Black Gold Entertainment.
Right.
Black Gold Entertainment. Basically, I teach young people how to play instruments such as the piano, and saxophone, and drums, percussion. So they get pretty much well-rounded ability and skills of learning how to play music. And so we work closely with the children and make sure that we have that relationship with them where they understand the importance of having the skill.
Okay.
Plus their education as well.
Okay. And that's so important for having a healthy, sound community, just
Right.
citizenship, and even a sense of belonging and value that I have something that I can contribute to society because I've been imparted to.
Right.
And everybody know my tagline. By the time everyone get through watching my show, they definitely gonna know it. I think it's a travesty to expect out of young people that what has not been invested in them. And because with Ambassador Inc., you all are investing so much. And I know you have a couple of events that will be coming up soon. And we'll be able to share that information with our listeners and our viewers. But just what you have brought, and being a man, I don't have a hat, but just a proverbial hat. I want to take it off to you because we need more men that will take the initiative and actually execute programs and services for our youth and our young people, because they see so much negativity. But as a people, we have to create our own narratives, and we have to show our children that there's not just negativity happening in our communities. There are also positive
Right.
things happening in our
Right.
community.
Right.
And for the sake of time, we're going to go ahead and shut down this version of our show. God, this has been such a great show.
Thank you.
I wish I could
Thank
stay
you.
longer, but the producers won't let me go. They won't let me stay. Tell me I have to get up out of here. But nevertheless, I can always bring you back. So thank you so much for
Thank you.
gracing our stage and being here to share your information. Look, if you want to find out more about Ambassador Inc. and this amazing man of valor, we just go to our website and you can obtain that information. And again, this has been another Reach In moment with yours truly, Dr. Nicole Lynette. Until next time, reach in.